Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Don Mafia Report. Your host, Dan Mitchell. You read that title correctly. Yes, it is clear that the Buffalo Bills are bringing in Gabe Davis on a free agent visit sometime this week after he meets with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We also saw that we brought in former seventh-round pick from the Miami Dolphins, Grant DeBose. That information just dropped a couple of minutes before this stream went live. And I got to tell you, my biggest piece of insight from this stream today, or my biggest question, is what the hell is going on with this Buffalo Bills wide receiver room? I think that's what I would like to unpack as we end up looking at the current depth chart, looking at these rumors that Gabe Davis is even an option for this team for a reunion, and I suppose the status of how some of these players who are injured. Will Buffalo move on from a name that a lot of us agreed would be a lock for the 53-man roster? I'm excited to unpack each and every single time. We have Dan. Your streams always start mid-sentence from Sean. It's weird with StreamYard, man. Maybe I need to start off with pausing a little bit once I ultimately end up seeing the live button. But welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. As you are coming in, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up sign. It is the easiest way to show love over here on the channel. And as you know, I am super nosy, so make sure that each and every single one of you roll call in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I want to know what corner of the continental United States. I want to know what corner of the globe everybody here is tuning in from. Do not be shy. I am talking to the lurkers. We have quite a bit to discuss, including some more takeaways after me reviewing a lot of the All-22 from some players this previous Sunday, and then also some things to watch out for. Who knows? Maybe we'll even hear from Sean McDermott today. I would imagine that we could be hearing from the Gents sometime this afternoon, but let's see. Let's see. Folks, we have Nova Scotia tuning in with us today. We have Ontario, Canada in the building. California is in the chat. Folks, do not be shy. Let me know where you're tuning in from, man. How far does Bills Mafia truly extend? Savannah, Georgia is in the building. We have Buffalo, New York, Lakeville, Pennsylvania, Oakland, California. What's up, Kenny O? Hope all is well. What's up, Dan? Albany, New York. Niagara Falls is in the building. Bowling Green, Kentucky. Buffalo, Miami. Tony T, what is going on, man? Baltimore, go Bills. Go Bills from Kansas. Buffalo, New York. Armark, New York. Homer, New York. I would take Antonio Brown today over Gabe Davis. Kareem Williams is coming in. Holy hell. Vernon, New York. Montreal, Canada. We have Virginia is in the building. Ontario, New York. Go Bills from Ohio. We have UK is in the building. And do I even know you? What's up, man? Tampa's in the building. Connecticut. We got Rochester, New York. Ocean City, Maryland. Greg is coming. Steubenville, Ohio. Great high school football program over there. Nationally renowned. Charlotte, North Carolina. Dave in Denver. Dan the Mafia, man. What is good? Beth, I hope all is well with you. I hope your move is going great. I hope you're preparing for school to start here in just a little bit. Atlanta, Georgia is in the building. Northern Virginia, go Bills. Gabe better come back just to run blocks. Smokey is in the building. Fort Myers, Florida. All right. Let's unpack the big news today. And the big news, ladies and gentlemen, is that for some odd reason, Gabe Davis has been invited to the Buffalo Bills for a free agency visit. Now, I got to tell you, so reflecting back a couple of years ago when Gabe Davis was set to potentially be paid on a second contract, I was a pretty big advocate of not moving forward with it. I was probably one of the few on the internet that was saying, you know what, you pull up a Gabe Davis highlight reel of his entire career, and more than likely you are only going to pull 3 games of subject material. I thought that he was wildly inconsistent. I thought that for a contested catch guy, his success percentages were not through the roof by any stretch of the imagination. But now I suppose it's interesting because we look at this team and we already have the 3 locks. And for a while, I was about to say that we had 5 locks at the beginning of the season, but injuries completely put this on right on its head. right? So now when I look at the Buffalo Bills roster, like you're looking at Khalil Shakir, who is suffering from a high ankle sprain. Hopefully he's back by week 1. I'm still patiently waiting for an update from Sean McDermott and company. You have Keon Coleman, and then, of course, you have Joshua Palmer. At the beginning of training camp, you heard me say that I think Elijah Moore and I think Curtis Samuel were all but locks. But we've had Curtis Samuel on the sideline for about halfway through training camp with a hamstring injury. From what I understand, he's ramping up, I suppose. And last week's performance with Elijah Moore, he had 2 drops and he misread a block terribly, something that you do not want to see a fourth-year player sort of make that mental mistake. And then you have the emergence of Terrell Shavers, which a lot of people want Terrell Shavers to make this squad as well. Why I think it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me for Gabe Davis to come back, and why I really feel that this is just a move made by Gabe Davis's agent to light a fire under the Pittsburgh Steelers front office's ass to get a deal done. Because look, like we have the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. This is his second visit with Pittsburgh. In fact, I would not be shocked as I am making this video right now if in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we hear that Pittsburgh finally ended up putting ink to paper, or at the very latest by the end of the day. Typically, when you have 2 visits with the team, it's by the end of that second visit where they ultimately end up pulling the trigger. If they do not, because when I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, right outside of DK Metcalf, if they don't bring in Gabe Davis, I understand he had a rough season in Jacksonville last year with injuries. That's telling me that there has to be some red flags being thrown out there from his medicals. So I think that this is nothing more than his agent trying to strong arm Pittsburgh into ultimately signing him to this team, being like, oh, look, so the Buffalo Bills, so they are interested in potentially having a conversation with Gabe Davis. So it really doesn't make sense to me. What is even more interesting is we see the Buffalo Bills we have brought in, and this is breaking right before we even started the stream. We brought in wide receiver Grant DuBose, and no, he's not making this team. This right here is just a player to hopefully get some reps during preseason week 3. Him making this team, we would ultimately need a miracle, right? At least from his own perspective. We would need to hit an unprecedented injury bug on preseason week 3 for this to even come to fruition at the end of the day. Why I bring this up, why Gabe Davis is being brought in, again, I am going to really stand on business, and I think that this is just a move from his agent to strong-arm Pittsburgh. But I think this raises some questions. What the hell is the Buffalo Bills' plan for the wide receiver room going into 2025? Because it's clear that Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and Joshua Palmer, they are on this team. At the beginning of the season, I thought that we could also include Elijah Moore, and I also thought that we could include Curtis Samuel into the 5. Then you end up having the emergence of Terrell Shavers, who has been having a wonderful camp. The problem here is normally Buffalo, they only like to keep about 5 to 6 wide receivers. Typically, the 6th wide receiver for the past couple of years has been added to the IR. And on active game day rosters, you're never seeing more than 5. So if Buffalo elects to go with a 6 wide receiver, 9 times out of 10, he better be a special teams savant. And many of you know who have been watching me for a little bit of time, I can all but confidently say, as far as the one wide receiver that brings the most to the table, as far as his versatility on special teams, and then also he can be somewhat of a red zone threat. He did have a 2-point conversion during the first preseason game, was Laviska Shenault. So Shenault has kind of always been my guy. I'm like, I don't really see it being passed or being put past Sean McDermott of not adding this guy right to our wide receiving core. I genuinely would be shocked, especially after I saw what Codrington was putting out on the table from the cornerback perspective on preseason week 2. So I'm still feeling pretty good that Laviska Shenault is going to make this team based off of what he could potentially bring to this team. So if Gabe Davis is being brought in for a visit, I have a feeling that means that Shavers is gone. I also have a feeling that Curtis Samuel is traded or Elijah Moore is traded. Perhaps both of them are traded. That's kind of what's going through my head because say, for example, that Buffalo is actually genuinely considering bringing in Gabe Davis. Number one, why? Because him and Keon Coleman are basically the exact same type of wide receiver. Somebody who's not particularly so the fastest is more of a big-bodied guy that is a contested catch person. And funny enough, I do think that Keon Coleman is a better fit for that specific type of wide receiver on this roster. So bringing back Gabe Davis would be a bit redundant. Like maybe Buffalo wants to like have him operate right out of the slot. And I'm talking about Keon Coleman. Maybe they think that he's better like right out of the slot specifically. But it's tough for me to find a place for this guy, not unless Buffalo is completely trying to shock all of us with this wide receiver room. It's kind of where I'm at. So say that Gabe Davis is brought in, and I know a lot of people love Terrell Shavers, and I know a lot of people are skeptical on Gabe Davis. However, I'm not sure how people are going to pick this up what I'm putting down, excuse me. But Gabe Davis is a better wide receiver 4 or 5 than Terrell Shavers is. That's something I would agree on, is that Gabe Davis is a better option than Terrell Shavers as far as consistency, as far as proof in the pudding. Because nothing of what we see from Shavers, really outside of one single touchdown reception last year and some quality preseason reps, Gabe Davis is a much better option as a wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5. Again, I do want to go out there and say I do not think Gabe Davis is going to sign. I think that this is a move from the agent side of things. He's trying to strong arm Pittsburgh into making a decision. I would genuinely be shocked. But if Gabe Davis is brought on, so within the next couple of days, one thing I can tell you is that we better be looking for either Elijah Moore and or Curtis Samuel to be traded. And that's even if somebody is interested on taking on their contract. And a lot of you might be interested of what these contracts could look like. And many are saying, hey, Dan, how about we go on ahead? How about we just release Curtis Samuel or we release Elijah Moore? Not going to happen. It's not going to be an injury settlement. The only way out of these contracts, folks, I have no idea what this ad is. New Scoopapalooza? What the hell is that? Here, let me refresh my screen. I'm going to go Curtis Samuel real fast. Curtis Samuel. Okay. Let's pull him up. Okay. So releasing Curtis Samuel wouldn't make any sense. So we wouldn't be able to do that because we typically would eat about $8.6 million in dead cap, basically eating that contract, pissing it down the drain, and then $430,000 in cap savings. But say, for example, that we are able to find a trade partner for Curtis Samuel. Surprisingly enough, I'm sure there are a couple of teams that are desperate enough to take on this deal that have a lot of cap space. So I think the Las Vegas Raiders would probably be interested. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, they are absolutely decimated with injuries right now. I think that they could potentially be some buyers here. Say that we were to trade Curtis, then we would only take on $1.7 million in dead cap and save about $7.3 million in dead cap. So that could be an option, but it has to be a trade. And then same thing with Elijah Moore, who could also potentially be somebody that we would need to move on from. Again, I don't see Buffalo wanting to run the risk of eating that contract, right? Say that we release him, then we're basically eating $2.5 million and then $1.7 million in savings if we were able to find a post-June 1st trade designation. And one thing I typically hear from people, which is interesting, sometimes people don't really care about dead cap because they're just like, oh my God, like we already spent the money in the first place. I really like looking at it from this perspective. So imagine you go out and like you buy a brand new truck and like you pay cash for like $60,000, right? And on day 5 of owning it, it's stolen. And you basically just say, oh, whatever, it's cool. And so you don't file an insurance claim, like nothing. Like you basically just pissed off or like pissed out $50,000. That's how NFL teams look at these things. So while maybe we don't particularly care, about $5 or $6 million in dead cap, it's the exact same way of us going out and making a very significant purchase, and then we completely just waste it. And those goods that we bought, like those goods rate that we bought, are no longer in our possession. So that's typically kind of how it looks like. But Gabe Davis, let's go ahead and open up the conversation right here. Again, 429 of you are rocking with me right now. I appreciate all of you, 254 of you on YouTube. And thank you so much for tuning in, guys. In case you're new, or in case this is your first time on my morning stream, I am live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST, and sometimes during the afternoon as well. So say, for example, that you're into that sort of thing, I highly recommend that you subscribe and turn on bell notifications, and do me a favor and hit that thumbs up sign. Many of you watch me during work when you're just trying to get that day like moving, like maybe you want to use me as a radio station or some noise in the background while you're going about your day-to-day responsibility. I strongly encourage you stick around and participate right in the live chat. We have a great community over here, and we are looking to build it even more. We have Dirty Jersey has come in saying, Gabe not getting a spot on the 53, stash him on the pup because he's not healthy anyways. If we have an injury here, there, if not, let him go. It's not so much that I feel like we went out there just to help Gabe Davis. It's not that I think that he would be a good fit to this wide receiving room, but the fact that he is even being brought in for a conversation has made me question exactly what this team, or where this team's head is at as far as this wide receiver room. Because Buffalo is not just going to bring in Gabe Davis on a free agent visit or agree to a visit just to help him get a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not going to happen. Maybe that's the intention of Gabe Davis's agent. Maybe it is. But Buffalo's not going to agree to that. No. So why are they considering it? What has changed? Maybe it's injuries. Maybe they decided that Elijah Moore is indeed not the player that we thought that he was. Maybe we can give him the excuse. It's not the quarterback problem. It's just that he's not a quality receiver right in the NFL. Or maybe Curtis Samuel, like we've had enough with his injuries and we're just like, hey, maybe we have found a potential trade partner for this wide receiver and we can ship him off somewhere. That potentially could be the thing. But it's wow. We have Joey Gonzalez is coming in saying, can Gabe play safety? Probably not. Trey Hendrickson still available. He is always healthy. So the Trey Hendrickson thing, I think that it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And you know what? I do hate to even put this out to the universe, because while the Cincinnati Bengals have started entertaining trades, I can tell you one team where I think he more than likely will fall to if Cincinnati does not find a contract for him. It's going to be the New England Patriots. I'd probably say the Patriots are the most likely landing spot as far as teams that have that available spend and are willing to pay him the contract that he is looking for. That's where I think he will ultimately end up landing. Soon as when Buffalo extended Gregory Rousseau, there went all of our option of bringing in Trey Hendrickson. Like right now we have $1.5 million in potential cap spend. Yes, we can go on ahead. Yes, we can go on ahead and give him a new contract and limit his current cap hit, which I think is at around $15 million. But we would still need to give him, as far as accounting purposes, around $1.3 million in base salary. But then whatever his signing bonus is, that needs to be equally distributed on our cap table. So say, for example, it's a 4-year, $20 million, and that's not going to be it. But just for the sake of math, that would add about $5 million on this year's cap hit. So we would need to do crazy things in order for us to make this a reality. I just don't think that Buffalo is going to pull the trigger on a player like Trey Hendrickson, as much as I would love it, because as many of you know, I have been pounding the table for quality pass rush on this team. It's just not going to happen. We got Hamler. He seems to be more reliable. I think he's nothing but like a hard knock story. I don't think that he really has a shot at making this team. I could be wrong. Y'all wanted Matt Collins back, but are crying over Davis coming in for a workout. Come on. So I do share that sentiment. I think that Matt Collins was wildly overrated. And so I think that people just got super obsessed over like him being barefoot and his Fred Flintstone costumes that he would wear going into the stadium. Like he was a very like average wide receiver. And plus, like, look, so I wouldn't be upset with Gabe Davis coming back as wide receiver 4 or 5 because I do think that he's a better option than Terrell Shavers as far as a person that is actually proven to be somewhat reliable right within the system. I'm fine with Gabe Davis coming in on a 1-year deal at $3 million or a 2-year deal at $5 million or something like that. Like he's not going to get a crazy contract. We ended up walking away from him where he was looking for some mega deal, and he got the mega deal from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He played so bad that they decided to get rid of him, but they got rid of him because he wasn't living up to the wide receiver 2 expectations. For a 1-year, $3 million contract, which would be mostly so incentives laden, you're damn right. Damn right, I would take Gabe Davis. And so I'd take Gabe Davis on a 1-year, $3 million contract as a wide receiver 4 or a wide receiver 5. It's sort of tough for me not to. Like he's not going to be wide receiver 2. It's still going to be Shakir, followed by Coleman probably, followed by Joshua Palmer, and then you'd probably put Gabe Davis in there. I'd probably say that Gabe Davis would probably be one of the best wide receiver 4s in the NFL. It's not about making him a wide receiver 2 again. It's more about a 1-year, $3 million deal for a guy that's going to be maybe 4th in targets. Yeah, sure. Like, sure. But again, I'm not entirely sure that Buffalo is going to win this competition. And if that's the case, what the hell are they doing with the wide receiver room? I think that's the number one question I'm trying to bring up. Shavers was practice squad, but capitalized on the snaps he did get. Samuel was injured all last season and started showing out when he was healthy, and Moore hasn't taken a snap using our actual playbook. For sure, but like, here's the question. Like, I am just raising the question because say, for example, that Buffalo is really that high on Shavers, that high on Moore, and that high on Curtis Samuel, then we wouldn't be bringing in a guy like Gabe Davis. So that's why I'm like raising the question. I'm not particularly saying that all 3 of them are gone off of this roster, but based off of this move and this report this morning, what I can guarantee is Buffalo is nowhere near sold once you get past our top 3 wide receivers. And so they're scrambling at that point. So that's my thought process. We have Hendrickson, Bosa, Rousseau would be unstoppable. Indeed. Unfortunately, the only way we're ever going to see that happen is on Madden 25. Unfortunately. Trey is coming with Hollins. Matthew French. Dan, he would be cheap deal because he's being paid from Jacksonville still. Yeah, like whatever deal he signs, it's not going to be like bank breaking. Like we're talking like 1 year, $3 or $4 million. That's just kind of how it is. We have Nara's coming. What's up, Nara? Fun fact, Dan. It's the last time the Bills lost a horrible preseason game so lopsided was back in 1990. And ironically to the Bears, we went to the Super Bowl for the first time that year. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm done talking about so that performance in the preseason. It's crazy to me, like, how like I could scroll on X and see people trying to like make it appear like that has anything to do with how we're going to perform right like in the regular season. It's basically like watching a car wreck. Because I see all these fan bases that are trying to do whatever they can to find a reason to convince themselves that Buffalo is on the downslide. And they're just going to be disappointed at the end of the day. Like that's largely what it's going to turn out to be. I don't know that they are serious about Gabe, to be honest. Think that might be a play to force the Steelers' hand. Yeah, for sure. But so with us playing devil's advocate here, right? It's probably a play from Gabe Davis's agent, but I don't think that Buffalo would agree to be used as a pawn to get a contract for a former wide receiver on a conference rival. So, yes, I agree. That's probably Gabe Davis's agent strategy, but I don't see Buffalo agreeing to having Gabe Davis come in for a visit just for that exclusively. I don't think that that's it. And so I'm not even saying that this is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Gabe Davis is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler here within the next 48 hours. But the fact that we're even entertaining it is what's making me question, like, what is Buffalo? So how is Buffalo looking at this wide receiver room and what's important to them, right? All right. So the Bills signed a running back and we placed Darrington Evans on the IR. Folks, we have Darrington Evans on the IR. That is interesting. So that actually raises Frank Gore Jr. on the depth chart. No, I don't think Frank Gore Jr. is on the 53 just yet, but that is an interesting update. Bill signed him. Let me see what else we got here. Running back Darrington Evans was placed on the injury reserve. Cornerback Corey Couch and rookie Caden Prather have been waived/injured. They have one open roster spot. That's interesting. All right, folks. We're getting some updates on what is happening. Tough for the Bills, 7th-round pick, Caden Prather. But for clarity on how it works, he and cornerback Corey Couch can be claimed off of waivers with teams knowing he has an injury. If he clears, he reverts back to the Bills and can stay on the IR all season or be released with an injury settlement. So that's some big news too, folks. We have Corey Couch and Caden Prather have been waived/injured. So as long as no one picks them up on waivers, more than likely they are going to be on the IR all season. And perhaps I think with Corey Couch, he could potentially be on the practice squad. So that is an update of how we're looking for now. I'm just double checking because for some reason, I just have an inkling that Buffalo may be hearing from Sean McDermott today, or maybe it's tomorrow, who knows, but I am just doing my due diligence to make sure that we can relax or we can figure this out. All right, so I'm not seeing anything. Roster moves, signed Howard, wide receiver Grant DeBose. We have Darrington Evans was placed on the injured reserve, and Corey Couch and Caden Prather have been waived/injured. All right, folks, we have some roster updates on today's show. What is going on, guys? 541 of you in here, 324 of you are rocking with me this morning. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up sign. Let's propel this out to the YouTube algorithm, and let's have a conversation today. Do not be shy in the chat, folks. Always curious to see what everybody's viewpoint is on this Buffalo Bills team. And you know what? Since we have so many people in here, roll call in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. What corner of the globe? What corner of the United States are you watching this show? How far does Bills Mafia truly extend? That is indeed the question. Folks, I got to tell you about this one fantasy football draft kit that I have been obsessing over for the past couple of weeks. My fantasy football draft is this Saturday. And I got to tell you what, I have been mock drafting like an absolute fiend. What I do with RotoWire is that this is your assistant general manager that allows you to put together one of the most in-depth draft strategies you have ever seen in your entire life. I'm going to add a new draft plan here where I want to keep a balanced approach in the early rounds, aim for upside in the middle, and for the late rounds, I want to aim for upside as well. I want to get my guys in the early rounds and keep it balanced in the middle and also in the late rounds. What is important to me? I'll tell you what, and something people do not tell you about fantasy football. Give me offensive line quality, especially since I am going with the running back strategy this year in fantasy football. That is what I would like to see. And then injury risk is also very important to me. Many people want Saquon Barkley on their fantasy football team. I really think that people have forgotten that Saquon Barkley prior to last year was a very injury-prone type player. I am staying away from him. Thanks to RotoWire, that is going to give me red flags in case he is around when it's my turn to pick. So I continue this option. I add the players I like. I add the players I want to avoid. I would probably put Saquon Barkley here and a couple of other guys. I'm going to finish my draft plan, and I have my sleeper account where I'm conducting my fantasy football draft. And soon as when it is my turn, it gives me my best possible options. This is the #1 fantasy football draft kit on earth. I am going to win my fantasy football league because of RotoWire. And I promise you, when you end up downloading this and using my code Dan for 15% off in a couple of months, you're going to be like, holy hell, Dan. Holy hell, Dan. Thank you so much for putting me on. Shout out to RotoWire for being a proud partner of today's show. All right, guys, roll call in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let's go. Cheek Dawag is in the building. Science-based fitness. What is going on? We have Jessica Tennis. Evans on the IR was an inevitability as soon as Cook signed his contract. Indeed. It's basically Cook. It's Ray Davis. It's Ty Johnson. And it's going to be Reggie Gilliam, who I know several of us have always forgotten that he's still on this roster, but he's typically always RB4. It's nice for the fact that Frank Gore Jr. Will likely be on our practice squad. And for people that may be nervous that some team might pick him off from the practice squad, last year it didn't happen. And last year he had a very equally impressive preseason performance. So I think we can remain optimistic. And he is not a bad player to have in reserve in case we end up losing one of our running backs at any point during the season. Greenville, South Carolina is in the building, but grew up in Pueblo, Colorado. Hating. Wow. Look at that, man. We got Denver. We have Denver right over there. Martin is coming in. It's the duality of man right here, ladies and gentlemen. We have my boy in here being like, I had to get out of Denver. And Martin is just like, Denver, Colorado, baby. Go Bills. Look at that. Go Steelers. Oh, we have a Steelers fan in here. What's going on, man? We have Olean, New York is in the building. Let me see what else we got here. Dan, what's going on, man? We have Philadelphia is in the building. Syracuse, New York. Alabama is in the building. Lewiston, New York. California. Buffalo. Work lurking in Saratoga, New York. New Britain, Connecticut. Let's go Buffalo. DJ Finesse at the Tesla Trap. At the Tesla Trap is crazy. I love that. South Buffalo. Dan skipping me from Philadelphia. Frank, I would never skip you, my friend. We have Jesse from Iowa's in the building. California in Bob Village, Lakeville, Pennsylvania. Let's talk about that. I will be in Saratoga Labor Day weekend going to visit my best friend and hitting the racetrack. Have a great time. We have Germany's in the building. Janice, what is going on? Jersey, Nevada is in the building. Toronto. That's wild, guys. That is absolutely wild. All right. So quite a bit of updates from this Buffalo Bills roster, folks. We have a couple of moves here. We have Gabe Davis coming in for a conversation with this team. Let's see what everybody has to say. You know what's great is that I always love giving everybody an opportunity to get something off of their chests. So say, for example, that you guys want to pop in and let me know what is going on, what is really dominating your headspace. Feel free to go ahead and call in on the show. I do this each and every single day. So the Garage Beer Hotline is now wide open in case any of you guys would like to tune in and give me your take on Gabe Davis. Maybe give me your take on a variety of different things. I'm going to go ahead and call in on this situation. And feel free to tune on in, folks. Let me know what is on your mind. Should we end up bringing in Gabe Davis? What is your take on Caden Prather being added to the IR? What is your take on the status of the wide receiver room? Very curious. And without Garage Beer, we would not have this hotline available. So certainly go check out Garage Beer if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already. It is beer tasting beer, man. It is absolutely delicious. Raleigh, North Carolina. Jessica, I love Raleigh, North Carolina. Love Raleigh. It's an absolutely beautiful time. We need a safety for depth. Hamlin has not been the answer. So again, so I agree with you. But then again, so there are a couple of things about Damar Hamlin that I do think are silly. A lot of people have expectations for Damar Hamlin that he needs to be a top 10 safety. Like, he is the 64th highest paid safety in the NFL. And the Bills don't want to start Damar Hamlin. He's only had to start because, number one, we have a lack of development from Cole Bishop. And then number two, he's had to fill in for injuries back toward the twilight of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer's career when they were off and on the IR. Unfortunately, as much as this is going to piss people off based off of how Cole Bishop played, don't be surprised if Damar Hamlin is the starting safety on week one. Do not be at all. If you were to ask me, I would much rather have Jordan Hancock out there. I think that he has done everything to earn that starting spot. Will Sean McDermott ultimately end up wanting to move forward with it? I feel like that's a different conversation. But again, right now with the NFL, so the average depth of target last year was 7.6 yards. That suggests, and based off of the past 5 years, you were seeing a decrease in 0.1 each and every single year. So that 2019 and 2020 scene where like we saw Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow really stretching the field, that's dying statistically. What NFL offenses are doing right now is really shortening the game. Like they are literally dinking and dunking. That is predominantly what offenses do right now, outside of a couple of anomalies where they end up stretching the ball downfield. And for the most part, as long as Taylor Rapp is out there, that safety room is very rarely targeted when Taylor Rapp is out there. He's solid in coverage and he covers a lot of ground. So I'm not so much concerned about having one weakness. Like one thing that I really feel like is difficult for people to grasp is a lot of people believe that this Buffalo Bills team is the only team in the NFL that has a weakness on their roster. Every single team, I don't care. No one's roster is perfect, folks. I hate to tell you that, but no one's roster is perfect. That's including the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is including the Kansas City Chiefs. If every single roster was perfect, folks, then game planning against any unit would be nearly impossible. Like, that's how you game plan. Like, you leverage weaknesses from the other team. If we're so worried about safety, like what you should be worried about is how our defensive line can finally get to the quarterback. That solves all of our issues. That solves all of our issues, is getting to the QB on 3rd and long, is getting to the quarterback and not giving them 4 to 5 seconds to find the open man. That's the big issue. So do I agree that Damar Hamlin should be replaced? For sure, but by who? Like, who are we replacing with Damar Hamlin right now? It's not Derek Forrest. Like, he has not done a thing in camp. A thing. It's not Cole Bishop. And so the dude just can't stay healthy. And Sean McDermott just doesn't trust him. It's just kind of how it is. It's just kind of how it is. We have Super Grava. With the every team has a weakness, all I'm worried about is ours. We have Super Grova is coming on in. He wants a perfect roster. We have Beth is joining the Garage Beer Hotline. What's up, Beth? How you doing? Beth, what up?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for asking. So let me go right into Gabe Davis here. Loved Davis when he was here. All right. Absolutely loved the games that he had against KC, specifically the games that he had against KC. Because, I mean, realistically, he was the one performing. If we look back at our 13-second game, if it wasn't for Davis being on the field, we wouldn't have gotten 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's real. That's real truth. That's everything. But we got rid of Gabe for a reason. He wasn't pulling his weight the season after. We wanted him to be a solid wide receiver too, and he never lived up to that role. Now, I understand we wouldn't be looking to bring him in as a wide receiver too this year if we were to bring him in, but I don't see him getting on the field. I don't see him beating out more for wide receiver two. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't even think that we have a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I think we have a wide receiver by committee. I don't think there's going to be a clear-cut number 1, number 2. I think it's going to be spread. So Gabe coming here, I really honestly think this is more of a ploy, maybe by his agents. Maybe they had some conversations. Yeah, you know, we'll have Gabe come in and we'll work him out. But I don't think the Bills are very serious about bringing him in. Not at all.
Yeah. So are you concerned at all, like where they're going with wide receiver 4, 5, and 6, since they're even wanting to entertain this? Because, so I totally agree with you. Like, I was a number 1 advocate for not paying him. And so a couple of years ago, because it was wildly inconsistent. And yes, I loved what he did during the 13-second game and that 98-yard reception against Pittsburgh a few years back. But really outside of that, like that's all like he did, right?
Exactly.
But now So I'm looking at how Curtis Samuel is still injured. And so I'm looking at Moore, who had a rough preseason week 2. And I'm not saying that they've given up on him, but I see him being brought in for a visit. And I'm like, why the hell are they even entertaining this? Like, I can see like his agent wanting to do it so that he could strong arm Pittsburgh. But like, what? Like, why is Buffalo doing it? Like, why are they even potentially wasting this guy's time? So now, like, my mind's all over the place. I have no idea what this wide receiver room is going to look like once you end up getting past those top 3 spots. I'm not sure where you're
True.
at with that.
So here's kind of my thought. And again, I always bring a different kind of perspective.
For
Maybe
sure.
this is their way of saying, hey, Moore, if you're not pulling your weight, guess what? We got Gabe on the back line.
Oh, I like that.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You put fire under somebody's ass and they're going to perform. They're going to perform because they want a spot on the roster. I mean, let's look back at not just the Hard Knocks episodes and like the embedded episodes and things like that the Bills have always put out for us. But let's look at Moore and his whole personality once he got here. He came in and he was very cut and dry in his first interview. Like, he was happy to be here, but you could tell there was some uncertainty. And then you see shots of him with Allen and kind of just interacting with the other guys. And you saw a completely different person out of Moore. You saw him come out of his shell. You saw him much more comfortable. I think that's going to end up resulting on the field. But we're still in preseason. We're not even playing our actual playbook. So what he's comfortable running in practice, which he did have a good mini camp and he did have a good training camp. You saw tons of highlights of Allen and Moore, Allen and Moore, Allen and Palmer, Allen and Palmer, Allen and all of these people. You're seeing it. We had good camps, but we're not playing with our playbook that we've trained with in camp. So how can I really create, an opinion over what these guys are going to look like when we're not even playing the damn playbook?
True. Yeah. So very true. What were your thoughts on the game? Right. It was a 38-0 loss. Several people on the internet were a tad upset. What were your thoughts, and what do you have to say to Bills Mafia for people that are feeling a bit uneasy about it?
So I'm going to be so honest. It's preseason. Like, I look back at our preseason records and I'm just like, okay, if we're lucky, we win one preseason game, if we're lucky. So as far as I'm concerned, preseason to me, these are scrimmage games. These are scrimmage games where we are able to throw out things that we want to see how people react in the regular season. We want to see what the guy's attitude is. How does he deal with this type of altercation or controversy or anything like that on the field in game? This is where they make their final cuts in their head going, okay, well, this guy under this type of pressure worked really, really well. And this guy kind of fell apart. Now we see where this guy's got to practice more. And this guy, now we can move on to something else. Let's strengthen another part of his game. So as far as a 38-0 blowout, I mean, we were playing our 2s and 3s. Our 1s didn't even see that much. So I can't necessarily say, I'm worried or anything like that going into the season because, again, we were playing our 2s and 3s. Allen wasn't on the field. The few ones that were on the field got very limited snaps. It wasn't, an every down thing. So that's reminded. I'm not concerned. I won't be concerned unless we fall on our faces against the Ravens. That's when I'll start getting concerned.
Yeah. Most definitely, folks. I can promise you that there were several instances during the drought years where we went undefeated in the preseason. And how did that work out for us? And last year, the Chicago Bears kicked our ass as well, and they went 5-12. And we ultimately ended up having one of the best seasons in Buffalo Bills history. So, again, I hope that everyone was able to sleep on it and it doesn't really live in your mind that much longer. Beth, we appreciate you calling in. We always appreciate your insight on here.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys. Have a great one.
Thanks, Beth. Shout out to Beth. Love her calls. Love her insight. Let's see what's going on as we welcome in the next caller on the Garage Beer Hotline. Step into the garage, DTN. What's up, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, Dan. I just want to continue my previous take from yesterday that yes, it was the preseason, but I just want to add a couple of things. And then after that, I want to discuss some of the worst takes that I've actually heard on the Roundtable Sports on 4th of Forever yesterday, because I did get to watch that video. But before that, I just want to talk about the preseason game that preseason game between the Bears and the Bills, because yes, it's still the preseason. However, it does judge on how bad the safety room looks like, because now I get it's the preseason, but you have to like evaluate some of like the individual performances, and I bet you that we all agree as a AFC East rival, the Bills safety room needs to be looked at a lot closely, because we know that Cole Bishop and DeMar Hamlin failed to live up to their expectation, and it seems like the last I think 2 streams ago where I did call into the show talking about like the draft and possibly talking about how the Bills may need a linebacker.
Yeah.
I feel like the Bills need to rethink about wanting to maybe draft a safety, because do you think that you're going to trust on DeMar Hamlin to be your starting free safety next to Taylor Rapp? Because I'm looking at NFL Draft Buzz again, because I think there's going to be some draft prospects that the Bills need to look at the safety room.
So I think we might even have the guy on the roster already in Jordan Hancock, who was like a utility player for Ohio State last year. He was a slot guy. He also had some reps at the safety position. I'm still pretty much married to the idea that by midway through the season, I think due to an injury or due to a piss poor performance from DeMar, he will ultimately end up stepping in and taking that role and not giving it back. But so as far as safeties, man, look, like I'm probably one of the few people that is not going to lose sleep right over this safety room being average. Like you look at the NFL and the average depth of target is 7.7 yards. Like that's what quarterbacks do. Maybe outside of 2 to 3 plays per game where they end up trying to air it out 20 plus yards downfield, I'm not going to freak out and go try and pay like Simmons a crazy contract at 33 years old.
Heck no.
Just for a couple of plays per game. What's important to me is pass rush. Like the biggest issue for the Bills last year was 3rd and long. Like you see 3 and 10, 3 and 15. For some reason, we ended up getting cooked. Yes. Can you blame our secondary for it? I suppose. But then again, like what are you expecting? Like when a quarterback has literally 6 seconds to sit in the pocket, extend the play, and wait for one of his weapons to get open. It's going to happen. I do not care how good your secondary is. It's going to happen. If we can actually finish the job and cause pressure where it needs to be, that elevates everything. A good defensive line makes an average secondary above average or even good. So does it suck that Hamlin is next to Rapp? Yes. Like, do I think that like he's the worst thing to ever happen to this team? Like, no. Like, dude, like we pay him like $2 million a year, right? Like, as long as Rapp is there, who is wildly athletic, like he's known for friendly fire and he's not reliable in staying healthy. But when Rapp is on the field, he covers a lot of ground and he masks some of the inefficiencies that we have at whoever is playing next to him. It's just one of the downsides of being a fan of a professional sports organization that has a salary cap, because you're going to have to make sacrifices somewhere on your roster. And say that I could afford to have any weakness on this roster at all, you're damn right safety's on the top of my list. I would rather have an above average safety room or a below average safety room and make sacrifices on the offensive line, or make sacrifices on our perimeter corners, or make sacrifices in our QB, for example, or some of our other skill position players. As far as ranking the importance level of any position group on this team, for me, safety is probably one of the least concerning, in my opinion.
I see. So it seems like linebacker is going to, because we did talk in the 2 shows ago that linebacker would be the talking point for the Bills defensive squad, I would assume.
Yeah, so with linebacker, man, like we're super talented up top, right? Like we have Bernard, we have Matt Milano, who are both very good in coverage and at being your traditional linebacker that's quality against the run. But what we saw last week was say, for example, that we ever have to go out and rely on Dorian Williams and Joe Andreessen, who are respectively next in line in case one of them or both of them get hurt. Both of them are absolute liabilities in coverage. So as far as depth from that linebacker side of things, we have a pretty big weakness as far as the skill set. So with both Andreessen and with Dorian Williams, who were just getting twisted and destroyed out there in coverage opportunities last week. So I'm hoping that Shaq Thompson, I'm hoping that he could potentially be that guy. I'd probably feel a bit more comfortable if, for example, Bernard and Milano are out like together, that like he could be that next man up, because while he's old, he still provides a bit more of an interesting skill set. And then both in Dorian and same thing with Andreessen. But I mean, dude, like I said, we have a salary cap, and like I think that we have quality depth in all of the important places on this team. And unfortunately, how it goes is like you need to be able to make sacrifices on a roster. That's the case for each and every single NFL team. It's just, unfortunately, it's how it is.
Which leads to one of the most stupidest takes I've heard coming out of TD's mouth. And this will explain why I do not think the Dolphins will win. After hearing the news that the Dolphins signed Matthew Judon to a 1-year deal, I'm just like, why do the Dolphins need to sign 1-year deals to former Patriots players?
Wait a minute. Chat. We have breaking news.
Danny Dimes as the starter.
Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for their September 7th regular season opener versus the Miami Dolphins.
Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Dimes, folks, has been given the nod over Anthony Richardson. Now, I got to tell you, I think this is a good move, surprisingly enough. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that there are a lot of positives. He's behind an actual quality offensive line. He is almost a bit more efficient with his mobility than Anthony Richardson. I'm still not high on the Colts. I still think they're about to be absolutely terrible, but I do think that this was their best option. But anyway, DTN, I'm sorry. I just had to break some news on stream. We'll touch on that later. Go ahead.
No, considering that the Dolphins are going up against the Colts, considering that Xavier Howard is now with the Colts, so that's really interesting. But let's talk. I just can't get over the fact that Dolphins love to sign former Patriots players to 1-year deals. Like they signed our former long snapper and Joe Cardona. They just signed Jack Jones to a 1-year deal, who I think fell on his face during his second season with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I have zero clue of what Miami is doing. But what I know for sure, when I watched that video on the Roundtable YouTube channel, I just couldn't but laugh at the take coming out of TD, because I'm just looking at the preseason right now. Dolphins, you may have won games, but can you win in the regular season games? Because last season, I will not be shocked if the Dolphins will have the worst regular season, while in spite of having the best preseason. Because look what Jacksonville did last year. They went 3-0 in the preseason, then fell on their face in the regular season, and then they fired Doug Peterson. I will not be surprised if that happens to Miami.
So I got to tell you what, man. Like, I've been working with TD Finstock for about 6 years already, right? And like now I'm almost desensitized to him. So I know that he definitely gets under a lot of fans' skin, and I get it, and rightfully so. He did at first to me. But like after years and years of me realizing how this movie ends, like now I just kind of sit back and I have the Dan Mitchell smirk, because anytime that I hear TD Finstock say, "Oh, Dan, oh man, it's over for the Buffalo Bills," I just laugh. I'm happy. I'm filled with joy because I know how it all ends, right? So I know that it's going to end with me celebrating and TD like being very disappointed. It's like Groundhog's Day, man. Like I see it over and over and over again. And that's not me being cocky. It's me being confident, because as Bills fans, we actually have a receipt of success for the past 5 years, showing the world that we are who we say we are. And until proven otherwise, you're damn right I'm going to say that Buffalo is going to walk away with the AFC East each and every single year until a team ultimately ends up proving me wrong. Now, us getting past the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm a hell of a lot more humble with that one because we haven't done it yet. So, but that's just like, that's my mentality of it all.
The last thing I'm going to say before I let the next caller come in, when I heard that Dolphins signed Matthew Judon, and I heard a couple of Dolphins saying, we have the best defensive line in the National Football League. And I'm like, where? We had Matthew Judon for 3 seasons. We traded away Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons, and he didn't live up to the expectations. And when we got a 3rd-round pick out of that trade, we got a future center out of him. So when I'm asking Dolphins fans for a second, what are you going to get out of Matthew Judon this upcoming season, considering that he didn't look the same after his injury? I don't know where the injury was against the Cowboys back in 2023, but I'm going to tell you, you're not getting the same Matthew Judon that we had back in 2021 or 2022, where we had Pro Bowl seasons out of him.
So Miami is typically the island of misfit toys of washed defensive players each and every single year. I am very curious to see how he performs in Miami. DTN, I appreciate you tuning in, my friend, and I appreciate the call as always.
No problem, man. I'm excited for this edition of Fourth and Forever and hear what TD is gonna spew out of his mouth.
Oh man, it's some nonsense. It's some nonsense indeed, folks. You're probably wondering what the hell is Fourth and Forever. I'll tell you what, I and my 2 buddies started an online sports network called Roundtable Sports. What we ultimately ended up doing is that we ended up finding a YouTuber that represented each and every single team in the NFL. We pinned them together for a weekly divisional debate show. So we have an AFC North Roundtable, we have an AFC South Roundtable, we have AFC East, which I am a part of. So I highly recommend that you go check this channel out. It's called Roundtable Sports. You scroll down and you see all of the affiliated channels that we have with all the respective YouTubers. However, we have a daily NFL news show. So say, for example, you ever want to tap in on what is happening in the NFL as a whole, I highly recommend you go subscribe to Roundtable Sports, right? Because we have Fourth and Forever. Here's an example of one of our episodes. You know, we sit back, nice little, some of the graphics. We talk about quite a few trending topics in the NFL. I highly recommend that you go check that out. Also want to give a giant shout out to our other show for Bills fans. I know for a fact that you are going to want to watch this one. It's called the Bills Roundtable. It is myself, it is Z-Bot, it is Kevin Masari, and it is Bills Bunker, who meet Mondays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. EST, and we unpack everything that happens in the Buffalo Bills world. This right here was the most recent episode where we ended up unpacking everything that happened during the preseason. I could imagine on Thursday we're going to be having quite a few other conversations as well. So certainly go on ahead and subscribe to Bills Roundtable. That is linked in my description. And then last but not least, if you are a college football fan, folks, we're obviously trying to grow this bad boy. It's myself and Jay Tuck. He's a Cowboys YouTuber over here. We have the Roundtable College Football. If any of you guys are college football savants and you want to go on ahead and tap in on there, this is also linked in my description as well. So shout out to everybody that has been supporting Roundtable Sports since its birth, and I appreciate that more than you know. Beth B is saying, Roundtable is amazing. As a Bills fan, I love hearing from creators and fans of other franchises. Beth, oh, man, I love Beth. She's the best. She is the absolute best. If you are watching this channel, I don't know why you wouldn't watch the Bills Roundtable. Guys, listen, I know it's a slow burn. Don't worry about it. Say, for example, you want to subscribe, feel free. If not, don't worry about it. No harm, no foul. I'm just glad that you decided to tune in with me. Light of Truth is in the building. Steven, good morning, my friend. How you doing?
Great. How you doing today, Dan?
Doing fantastic, man. I'm
Great.
doing fantastic.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to make you aware, I put in the chat there, I watched this podcast the other day called the Stinkin' Truth Podcast with Mark Schlereth and Mike Evans, and it was titled Why the Bills Are Getting Smarter. And I put the marks in there. It's from 9:53 to 12:40 in the video. They got some really interesting comments in relation to Cook being finally re-signed. So as far as the Gabe Davis situation, you know, okay, so the Bills are talking to him. Well, The only reason I can see they're doing this, okay, I've got concerns about the wide receiver core because, Shakir is still injured. He's got that high ankle injury. Hopefully he'll be recovered fully by the time we go into game one. Now, Elijah Moore, for me, that guy's been a total disappointment. He's not lived up to the expectations everybody had for him when the Bills recruited him. I think Josh Palmer has been outstanding, and I think he's going to be a really great weapon for Josh Allen. Of course, there's Curtis Samuel. He's injured as well. So, yeah, there's some big concerns about our receiving core and how effective that's going to be. The other thing I wanted to say is that Joe Andreessen, I'm a native Buffalonian. I grew up right down the street from UB where he graduated from. And, it's amazing to see how he didn't go through the draft. He went directly into tryouts and made the team, and justifiably so. But there was a night and day in his performance between the first preseason game against the Giants, where he really stood out, and this one that we just had against the Bears, where he really looked terrible. So I know here's the other thing I wanted to say as far as preseason, and I think you made a great point. You made a great point the other day. I think it was yesterday. You said that, in preseason, you've had teams that have gone 0-3 and won the Super Bowl, and then you've had teams that go 3-0 and they bomb for the season. So, there's concerns with the performance of the Bills against the Bears, but again, it's preseason. We didn't have really our starting team in there. And the other thing is, McDermott and the coaching staff, they're not going to put their whole playbook out there in the preseason. So I really think we don't have that much to worry about. And I think once we see things come together in the first game, you're going to see the Bills unwrap what they're really about. And I'm still expecting the Bills to beat the Ravens. It may be a close game, but I'm still expecting to see the Bills beat the Ravens in game one to set the tone for the rest of the season.
And so I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that. I'm definitely going to check out that podcast because now I'm interested. And then second question as well, one of the biggest narratives within this fan base is causing great concern with the safety room. And so you heard my take a bit earlier. What is your take on the safety room? Is it as big of a deal as people are making it out to be?
Yeah, and I will also say you brought this up. Yeah, DeMar Hamlin. You said they're paying him $2 million. He's been a great disappointment. He's not looking good at all. I don't know if they're just trying to cater to him because of what happened on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals several years ago, where he conked out. But he's a good player. But let's face it, with what we've got with safeties, Rapp's out right now with the injury. Hopefully he'll be healthy. But yeah, we definitely need help in the safety realm. So yeah, there is some concerns there. So I'm just hoping the Bills can overcome, all these obstacles they seem to have. But again, even look at a couple years ago, we had all those injuries, and in the second half of the season, when everybody was counting the Bills out, and our record looked so horrible, and then we won all those games to get into the playoffs. Unfortunately, we didn't overcome the KC Chiefs, just like last year. But hopefully, again, this year we're going to be able to finally get all the way to the big one and win it, because everybody knows the Bills have the potential. And I've seen, analysts who are saying they're looking at the Bills. Some of them are looking at the Bills to go 17-0 this year, and they definitely have the potential to do that. I think their biggest obstacle, other than the Ravens, is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles in the second to last game. And I think that may be a preview of the Super Bowl. So, with everything that the Bills have going on, I do think they have enough potential. They can overcome all this and get us back to the big one and finally win it and go out of our last season at, I still fondly call it Rich Stadium. I lived right down the street from that. I actually worked there one season when OJ was still playing, but I still call it Rich Stadium. So go out of Rich Stadium with a bang and go all the way and win it, because the Bills deserve it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Steven, you and I are on the exact same page with that. And so I appreciate you calling in as always, my friend, and I look forward to the next time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Shout out to Steven, man. Great contributor on the Garage Beer Hotline, stepping into the garage. And we have Liam is next up. But he did bring up an interesting point because very often when you express your excitement for the Buffalo Bills roster this year, and say, for example, somebody says 14-3 or 15-2, and people are just like, oh my God, you're delusional. So let me ask you this, folks. Is it that delusional where a team who went 13-4 the year before and seemingly on paper got better in just about every single one of their weaknesses? You have a returning offensive line. You have a returning MVP quarterback. You have all the main contributors on the offensive side of the football coming back. Is it really delusional to say that Buffalo is 2 games better than what they were last year, or 1 game better than what they were last year, when they quite literally have the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL? Because, folks, look, I got to tell you, yesterday I made a bet with TD, and I said, I guarantee you Buffalo has 10 wins by week 12. And that's not crazy when you look at our schedule. Like, we have the Baltimore Ravens on week 1. Unfortunately, I'm not very warm to the idea that we come out with a win on that one. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Just because, so I do want to avoid Ravens fans online. But say that I am unfortunately correct. This Buffalo Bills team will not lose another game. I'm not worried about another game in the Buffalo territory until we end up going up to Houston on, I believe, Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football, one of the two. It is not crazy in the world. Never let anybody tell you that predicting Buffalo to go 14-3 or 15-2 next year with how easy their damn schedule is by having all of the returning contributors from last year that helped you go 13-4. And folks, I got to tell you, if the starters were playing on week 18, then Buffalo would have went 14-3. I'm sorry. Like, I am willing to die on that hill. So never let anyone tell you that a 1 to 2 game improvement from the year before is delusional. It's people in their feelings because they know that it's true. They know that it's coming. 14-3 and 15-2 is what I anticipate from this team. Liam's in the building. Liam, welcome to the Garage Beer Hotline. Step on into the garage, my friend. What's up?
What is up?
Chilling.
There's a lot of topics we could discuss, but
Yeah.
I do just want to touch on what you're just talking about as far as record. And I think a lot of people that are saying that are used to, let's go, because 2021 where Josh Allen is that roller coaster player. And as much as I loved him there, he would cost us games. You know, we look at the Jets game week 1 a few years ago, 3 picks. The one against the Bengals that season, he was poor. Just those games, and I think he'll look the same as last year because I think his development is great, and you know he's still a player that puts the ball in harm's way. But with the Joe Brady offense, and I think we'll turn the ball over less. So I think those terrible Josh Allen games are maybe one a season, but.
So I think you can associate a lot of that for when Ken Dorsey was in the building, or maybe even when Dable was in the building, at least toward the end, because he was a hell of a lot more aggressive, where Brady is a bit more like, I'm going to kill you by a million paper cuts. Like, that's typically how it goes. And that works for Josh Allen. It's all about scheme at the end of the day. And like, typically, like, we'll see like a narrative out there and like, we'll just be like, oh yeah, but like there might be a game or two that like we shouldn't lose. And I totally acknowledge that. Like, that's been the case for a very long time. But last year, it's hard for me to pick a single loss last year where I looked at the schedule and I was just like, okay, going into that game preview-wise, so I knew for a fact that we were going to win the game. Like last year when I look at all of our losses, like when we ended up losing to the Ravens, and so I wouldn't have been shocked if someone were to tell me that Baltimore would have kicked our ass on week 4 at home on Sunday Night Football when they were desperate. I also wasn't going to be shocked that Houston was going to beat us, right? So, but like last year, I really didn't see a game where we went into and we were just like, okay, we are 1,000% going to win this game, and then we ultimately ended up didn't. But that's been the case for a long time. But last year, all I can hope is that like that's just a sense of how Brady and Babbage has this team operating.
Yeah, and I think like that most of the games where Josh Allen wasn't on his best, it was against teams that weren't very good, and the rest of the team could make up for it. The Patriots game, he wasn't great. That was a scare. The Colts game, Taron Johnson had that pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I think usually Josh Allen will play up to who he's playing. So when he does have one of those poor games that are now rare, in my opinion, hopefully the rest of the team can make up for that.
Yeah. No, man. I totally agree with you. What do you feel about the Gabe Davis situation?
Yeah, I don't like it. Like, I just don't think it makes any sense. I just don't, because unless we don't know something about Shavers, I think he should make the roster, and depending on Moore and Samuel, whoever tends to make the roster, I would favor Samuel just because of the contract, honestly. And I think he has a higher upside. So I don't see Moore making the roster. But I mean, Gabe Davis is a solid run blocker, but I mean, so is Keon Coleman and
He is good.
Palmer. So I would be shocked. I would be shocked if we picked him up, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what's going on, man. And so the fact that they brought him in for a visit is really telling me that maybe this wide receiver room is not as solidified as some fans are thinking, but I suppose we'll see. I'm still pretty much in the camp that he's going to sign with the Steelers, so within the next 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why we'd be concerned about the receiver core. I mean, Josh Allen won MVP with it last year. The running back room is exactly the same, pretty much. O-line's still there. I mean, I think Palmer is better than Matt Collins. You know, he might play a little bit of a different role, but I would be shocked if we didn't finish top 5 in offense. It's not going to be a concern.
So I wouldn't really look much at Josh Palmer as being someone that's replacing the Mac Hollins production, but like more so of what Cooper should have been for us last year.
Yeah,
because Cooper, like, he was actually backtracked and put on the back burner due to his injury. I have a feeling that he would have been used a hell of a lot more. Say that he didn't end up hurting his wrist against Seattle. So I think that Palmer was basically a move to attempt to mimic that production that we never quite saw from Coop last year. But,
yeah, I mean, Palmer's probably the best route runner on the team.
Oh, yeah.
So
And don't sleep on Shakir either. He's also pretty qualified.
Right. I think he's more of he's a more rack guy. So, and but I think you can make a case he's probably the best on the team, but just having a guy that can get open. I mean, Diggs would be the last guy that we had that could do something like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Leah, man, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and I look forward to the next time you call in, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Have a good one, Dan.
Peace, dude. You as well. Shout out to everybody that tapped into the garage this morning on the Garage Beer Hotline. I'm going to go ahead and close the hotline for now, folks, and we're going to start wrapping up the damn show. All right? That's going to have to do it. So I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in and showing a little bit of love. Normally, I go a bit longer, but I have a date at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Folks, I know it sucks. I hate the DMV more than you know. I have to go and get my license all situated over there. Saw someone just hop in right to the line. Don't worry, my friend. I'm going to get you in next time. But I love each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you later this afternoon. I need to go get a new license. That sucks. I'll see you soon. Peace.